Hello, welcome to Backstory with Joan Goldstein. I'm Joan Goldstein. I have a very amazingly interesting guest with me today, and you're going to find this a very, very amazing show. Her name is Dr. Myra Weiner. Dr. Weiner is a retired but toxicologist, a scientist, but she went on a spiritual journey. And this is what we're talking about today. And she has recently returned, and she's going to tell us why she went, where she went, and what she gained from this experience. Myra.
Thank you, Joan. Um, I am an adventurous person, and for many years, I've wanted to live in a foreign country and never had the opportunity. So, at this time in my life, I now have the time and the opportunity to choose a country and go live there. I chose Israel. I have a strong attachment to Israel as a Jew. And I've been there before, but only as a tourist, staying a couple of weeks at the most. So this time I elected to stay for 4 months in Jerusalem, the one of the key cities of Israel and a holy city. So how did I go about this? I talked to people that I knew, and a friend was able to help me find an apartment very quickly through her contacts. And I rented an apartment for 4 months in a residential part of Jerusalem called the German Colony. It was near a bus stop to take me into the center of the city where there are many stores and schools and other sites. And it was near a grocery store. So I took advantage of the neighborhood to do my shopping. I cooked in the apartment. It was fully equipped. And I felt like this is how a resident lives.
You want to tell us what at this particular time in your life did you want to go there to have a spiritual journey? What was leading up to this?
Well, of course, the last 3 years have been a difficult period due to the COVID. Um, I haven't traveled probably in at least 5 years due to COVID and my late husband's illness. He passed away 2 years ago, and I felt the need to get away from my local community and explore another community. And I thought Jerusalem would be a good place for spiritual search, but I also was going for educational reasons. Um, I spoke to my rabbi, Rabbi Andrea Merrow at the Princeton Jewish Center, and she suggested the conservative yeshiva, the Fuchsberg Center in Jerusalem, which runs many programs, and one of them is a study program. It's in English if you need it in English. It's also in Hebrew, where I could study with rabbinical students, were among the other students, but I studied with a group who was just there for the fun of it to learn.
But you were there for the healing in the death of your husband.
Yes, I didn't exactly look at it that way, Joan. I looked at it more as an adventure, but what I found is that it was healing. And I realized that towards the end of the 4 months, when I just had more spark in me and more interest in life, and I was past that mourning stage, which I had when he passed away. So it was very healing and transformative in other ways. Um, in Jerusalem, the observance of the Sabbath, which is sundown Friday evening until sundown Saturday evening, is observed in very traditional ways. All the stores close by 3 p.m. on Friday. There are no buses. And so there's a quiet calm that comes over the city. And um, as someone who loves the Sabbath, it was a delight to see that happen, to see families walking to and from synagogue with their kids, with their prayer books. And it was a very special atmosphere.
Yes. And then the group that you were with, they were what, 50 students that you were with?
Yes, at the yeshiva, and I took 13 hours of class a week. I was there 3 to 4 days a week, um, Sunday through Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday. Thursday was trips from the yeshiva. Friday and Saturday, there was no school. That was to prepare for the Sabbath and to observe the Sabbath. Of the 50 students there, I'd say 2/3 were rabbinical students from America and from other countries, such as France, Russia, and Germany. And I had a choice of classes, which was extremely interesting to me. And so was the yeshiva atmosphere, because I'm here with a group of kindred spirits. That means these people all had a spiritual side and were there to connect to the divine in some way and enhance that connection. There was a wide age range. We had 18-year-old teenagers who had just finished high school and were in Israel for a gap year. We had the rabbinical students in their 20s through 40s, and very few in 50s, 60s, except me. I go even higher. So, but age didn't matter. We all shared the same interest and could talk to each other on a personal level about our spiritual search.
You did tell me that over the time that you were there, and 4 months is not a short period of time, there were changes in your thoughts and your feelings. What changed in you?
Well, early on, I went to a Friday night service at the yeshiva, and absolutely every single person in this room, and I'd say there were 30 to 40 people, was singing with their full heart. And it just moved me so that I started to cry. And someone came to comfort me, and I said, "It's fine. I'm not sad. I'm just very moved by this." And that experience happened again when I went to a smaller congregation near my apartment. And again, it was everybody was singing, everybody was participating beautifully. And I know all the songs and the prayers. And again, I was very moved. I had been taking a theology class, and we discussed all kinds of things about our beliefs. And I asked my teacher, Shia Rosenberg, I believe his name was, Rabbi Shia, how does one know when one has a spiritual experience? So I wanted to know that. And a young man in the class said, "Myra, don't you remember when you were crying in services?" And I go, "Yeah, I remember," because that's it. That's the connection. And I go, "Oh, wow. I didn't realize." And that has happened to me at home also. And that opened up my mind to what types of environments and experiences touch me deeply in a spiritual way.
You also mentioned to me that you thought that you would like to have stayed there for forever, right? But you didn't, and there's a reason for that too, yes?
Yeah, I mean, I felt so at home in Jerusalem. And thanks to my rabbi and friends here in Princeton, I had a whole spreadsheet of people that they knew who lived in Jerusalem, and they said I could call. And I did call, and I was invited for many lunches and dinners by these lovely people. And so I had friends, and that made a big difference. I wasn't by myself. I didn't have any family in Israel. And so that's the adventurous part of going to a country where you don't know anybody. But my friends here in Princeton gave me their friends. And through them, I expanded my uh, friendships in Jerusalem. And I also got to know the other students in Jerusalem at the yeshiva. And it just felt so comfortable. And I enjoyed it so much that I said, gee, I could be happy here. However, I have three adult children in the United States, and I'm not about to move to Israel without my family. And so I accepted that as I'm not going to live here and I'm going to go home and enjoy my home community and my family.
And your granddaughter did come and visit you, though.
Yes, she did. Before I left, I realized that it was the last week after the semester was over. I still had my apartment starting December 22nd until January 1st. And my 12-year-old granddaughter had her winter break. So I invited her to come visit Israel for the first time, gave her a ticket. My apartment had 2 bedrooms, and she was very comfortable in my apartment. So this young lady was brave too, because she traveled by herself on a plane from the US to Israel. And we had a lot of fun. One of those friends that I met through a Princeton associate was a tour guide. And she was able to recommend fun activities for a 12-year-old. And it was great. You know, it was like being a kid again. We went for, it's called Dig for a Day. We went into an underground cave and we digged for relics from the biblical period, shards of pottery. We found bones. If you're lucky, maybe a coin. And that was a great experience for my granddaughter.
Yes. And for you, you're still looking at that experience. You're still understanding how important it was for you, because you were able to then think of your life moving on.
Right. The other concept about that Dig for a Day experience that occurred to me in a spiritual sense, we were literally digging in the soil of Israel where the Bible happened. We were digging among our ancestors. We were touching relics from the ancient peoples. And it's another way to connect to your identity. And I don't know if my granddaughter looked at it in that way, maybe probably not, but someday maybe she'll realize that that was a special connection, literally to the dirt, the soil of the land. And it was great.
Now, you've been back like how long now? How have you, since you returned?
It's less than 3 months. I came back on January 1st, and the time difference, 7 hours, you know, it took a little time to get back into Eastern Standard Time. And my community, which was so welcoming to me when I returned, it was just beautiful. And I am so grateful for having taken this trip at this time in my life. I'm healed from the loss that I had during COVID and the pandemic lockdown. and I'm ready to do more wonderful things with my time.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Yes. You know, you jogged my memory that I went in a program in Israel where I stayed on a kibbutz. This is long ago. And part of what had sent me there was that my mother had suddenly died alone. And I was very saddened by that whole experience. And when I was on the kibbutz, the people there, kibbutz is a collective farm. And the first day they said to me, you know, you've got to work at something. If you don't work at anything, no one will talk to you. I said, no problem. Worked all my life. What do you want me to do? They said, well, do you know how to milk a cow? I said, not too many cows in Brooklyn. So I didn't have much familiarity with cows, but they said, okay, would you work in the laundry? I said, yeah, I'll work in the laundry. And they said, it won't be beneath you. No, I said, you want clean clothes? You work in the laundry. So they sent me to the laundry, and there was one older man sitting at an ancient sewing machine repairing clothes, and he's singing in Spanish. I hear that, and I know how to speak Spanish, so I spoke to him in Spanish. Within seconds, this woman came bursting into the room. She said, I understand you speak Spanish. I said, yes. She said, would you like a cup of coffee? And that, of course, you know, in a very hot, dry climate, the cup of coffee was the most healing thing you could possibly have. What I found out about those people is that they had all left Argentina during the bad times. This was exactly when there were bad times in Argentina, and they had come there. So I was able to connect with them just through language, you know. And then the older women had their own group, their own Tea Party group. And they learned that the reason I had come was because of the sudden and shocking death of my mother. So they wanted me to sit with them and have tea with them. They wanted to make me feel better, knowing that I was saddened by this event in my life. And that was something that reminded me about what we mean by being collective, what we mean by being a community.
Right.
We care about each other, that we share with each other. And that, I think, is something that you were looking for too, weren't you?
Right. I did have the opportunity to visit a kibbutz. It was far to the south of Israel from Jerusalem. It was a 4-hour bus ride. Kibbutz Keturah, that was recommended by my rabbi. And I stayed for a weekend, and it was such a different environment physically than the city of Jerusalem. It was in the desert where, like you say, it's very dry, and it was warmer. So I could go swimming in their swimming pool, which was fun. And I got a tour of the local national park, Timna National Park in the desert, and stayed and met people in the community, ate in the dining hall that they have for everyone where all the residents eat, and in an area that they also pray, separate area for Shabbat. So it was a very nice getaway for me and experiencing the community of the kibbutz where everyone contributes. And they're not there to gain material goods for themselves, but to help the community. That's a model that is done very well in Israel.
Yes. Yeah, they certainly let you know you're not alone. That was something I experienced. Well, Myra, how wonderful that you have been there. How wonderful that you gained so much in your spirituality. And I'm so happy that you came with me today to talk about that experience on Backstory with Joan Goldstein. Thank you, Myra.
Thank you so much, Joan. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.